Now I'm going to start this recipe off by soaking and softening our dried fruit. So into a mixing bowl, I'm going to pour in 1 kilo of dried mixed fruit. And then to that I'm going to add in 2 cups of juice. Now you can use any flavour that you like. Personally I'm going for a tropical blend. So just give that a quick mix just to get everything all nice and soaked in that juice. And we're just going to let this sit here for a good 2 hours to completely soak. Now I've had the fruit soaking for 2 hours. So our third and final ingredient is 2 cups of self-raising flour. Or you can use normal flour with 2 tablespoons of baking powder. So all you have to simply do is just mix it through until it's all well combined. Now finally I have a greased and lined springform pan. So just place our mixture into our springform pan. Okay, now we're going to place this into a preheated oven at 130 degrees Celsius or 270 degrees Fahrenheit for 2 hours. Now our fruitcake is out of the oven, I've let it cool down, and the smell that is filling the kitchen is unbelievable. It is a really lovely fruity smell. And I know it's hard to believe, but I made this entire cake out of just 3 ingredients and it's turned out fantastic. So of course you can change the recipe slightly by using different types of juices, but as long as you use it in the right amounts, I'm certain no matter what type of juice you use, it's going to taste simply delish. Okay, so with this recipe, you're going to need to do some preparation the night before. So what we're going to do is into a bowl, we're going to place in 500 grams of mixed fruit. Then to that we're going to add in half a cup of rum or brandy. It's really up to you, whichever one you prefer the most. Just going to drizzle that just over the top. Then with some cling wrap, we're just going to completely seal this off so it's nice and airtight. Okay, once done we're going to place this in the fridge overnight, just to give that rum and brandy a chance to soak into the fruit. Okay, so it's now the next day, so I've got a pot on the stove on a medium heat. So I'm going to grab our soaked dry fruit. Just going to put that right into the bowl. Now to that we're going to add in our butter, our brown sugar, our golden syrup. Now if you don't have golden syrup, just use maple syrup or honey will be fine as well. And to that, 1 cup of water. Now we're just going to stir this through, and we're going to continue stirring it until the sugar is dissolved and the butter is melted through. Okay, I've got about a tablespoon of boiling water in a cup. To that I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of bicarb soda. And we're just going to mix that in. Okay, all the sugar has been dissolved and the butter is melted. So what we're going to do now is grab our bicarb soda. We're going to pour that in. Then we're going to turn the heat completely off. Give it a good stir through. And we're going to take this off the heat. And we're going to let this cool down for about 15 minutes. Okay, now that it's cooled down, I've got 2 eggs here that I've just beaten up. So we're just going to pour that right in. Then we're just going to mix that through thoroughly. Next we're going to put in half a teaspoon of mixed spice or allspice, depending on what country. Then our ground nutmeg. Then our vanilla extract. And we're just going to mix that through. And lastly, 2 cups of plain flour with a tablespoon of baking powder mixed in. And we're just going to fold that through. Okay, I've got a standard size springform pan, so what we're going to do now is just grab some cooking spray oil and we're just going to grease the inside. Then grabbing our fruitcake mixture, just going to whack it straight in. That was the final step. Just got some flaked almonds and we're just going to sprinkle those just on top. Okay, now we're going to place this into a preheated oven at 160 degrees Celsius for 50 to 60 minutes. Okay, so I've just taken this out of the oven and so as I push down there it springs right back. And we stick a wooden skewer right in the center. Comes out clean, it's ready. So I'm just going to let this sit here and cool down for about half an hour, then it'll be ready to serve. Okay, and it's ready to serve. And look at that. It's come out looking fantastic. And this is so simple and easy to make. Even Johnny Thunder could do it. It is that simple. And looks, it's just perfect. And it smells wonderful. It really, really does. And I'd also like to give a special thanks to Johnny Thunder's children. They're one of my most youngest and most loyal watchers, and they've watched every single video I've made, and I love them for it. I really, really do. Nothing but the best kids around. So thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. Okay, I just cut out a slice, and just so you can see the inside, as you can see, it's nice and fluffy. You can see that fruit mixed all the way through it. Now, I love fruitcake during Christmas. It is simply one of the best things you can have. And I guarantee if you try this cake, it's going to taste simply delish. Now, this is a recipe you want to start at least the day before, because you'll really need to soak the dried fruit before you cook it. But basically all you have to do is, into a bowl, I'm going to place in 1 kilo of dried mixed fruit. Then on top of that, I'm going to pour in 1 cup of rum or brandy. It just comes down to your personal liking of which flavour that you want to use. And don't worry about the alcohol content, because by the time this is finished soaking up and by the time it's finished cooking, there'll be 0 alcohol left. It's strictly for flavour. So for the bare minimum, you want it to sit there overnight, but try and aim for, say, 2 to 3 days. Just give it a chance to soak up that lovely rum or brandy flavour. Okay, so I've had the fruit soaking overnight. So now today, into a mixing bowl, I'm going to place in 250 grams of softened butter, then 1.5 cups of firmly packed brown sugar. And it still surprises me today, people always ask me, why is it firmly packed? Simply because of the moisture content in the brown sugar, it doesn't sit as easily as normal sugar. So if you firmly pack it, you're going to get the right amounts. And then finally to that, I'm just going to add a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And with a handle stand mixer, give it a good mix up for a few minutes until it's nice and fluffy. Okay, so as you can see, it's now nice and fluffy. So next I have 4 eggs. So just add in 1 at a time, let it mix through, then we're going to add the 2nd egg, then 3rd egg, and so forth. Okay, so next I'm going to add in 2 cups of regular plain flour, and then 1/2 cup of self-raising flour, then 1/2 cup of cocoa powder, then a tablespoon of mixed spice or allspice. Same thing, just different names. Then mix to combine. Now that that's completely mixed through, next I'm going to add in 1/2 cup of melted dark chocolate. Then I'm going to follow it up with 3/4 cup of roughly chopped up hazelnuts. And finally the fruit mixture that we've had soaking overnight. And just carefully mix it through to combine. And lastly, I just have a lined and greased springform pan. So just simply place all of our mixture into our springform pan. Okay, so we're going to place this into a preheated oven at 285 degrees Fahrenheit or 140 degrees Celsius for 3 hours. Now I've taken our chocolate fruitcake out of the oven and I've let it cool down for a few hours. Now this will easily store for say a month or 2 in a sealed container. Surprisingly, the longer you leave it, the better it tastes. And before you have it, just spruce it up, say with just a light dusting of some powdered sugar. And why not place on some cherries, being Christmas. So it truly is a different spin on the regular old fruit Christmas cake, because having chocolate with the fruit really does taste wonderful. Just picture those times where you've dipped fruit in chocolate. And whether you have this on Christmas Day or any time of the year, to be honest, it's going to taste simply delish. Now we're going to start this fruit cake off by creaming our butter and sugar. So into a mixing bowl, I'm going to place in 250 grams of softened butter, followed by a further 200 grams of sugar. And with a hand or stand mixer, simply beat it up until it's nice and creamy. Okay, now that it's nice and fluffy, next we're going to place in 2 eggs, then 1/2 cup of fresh orange juice, then just mix that through to combine. Now next we're going to add 2 cups of self-raising flour, followed by a 375 gram packet of sultanas, and lastly a standard 200 to 250 gram packet of glaced cherries. Yum, look at those. And simply mix to combine. Now finally I have a lined and greased loaf pan, so simply just place your mix inside the loaf pan. Okay, so now we're going to place this into a preheated oven at 300 degrees Fahrenheit or 150 degrees Celsius for 2.5 hours. Now I've just sliced up our cherry fruitcake, and doesn't it look delicious? Taking it out of the oven, it really does smell fantastic too. It fills a room with a lovely, lovely Christmassy smell. So when it comes to Christmas recipes, or cake recipes in general, this is a very simple one to make, but still packed full of flavour. And serve it with a side of, say, whipped cream. But you can have it any time of the year, but especially if you have it on Christmas, it's going to taste simply delish.